Well, welcome to Life Together TV. Great to have you guys back. I think we're in this journey now for just about a week and a half, having so much fun, getting a chance to introduce you guys to some fun and very famous people. Today, I'm introducing you to Josh Surratt, great friend. There he is, very famous, you know, just kind of like the voice over with,
That's right.
Josh.
It's an honor for you to have me, Greg. Thank you.
It's good. It is an honor for me to have you. Hey, I am so excited, you guys, to have you join us because Josh Surratt, in life and ministry, you know, sometimes, you know, you're doing the work of the ministry and then you cross over and it becomes more than just ministry partner, it becomes friendship. And I just love this guy. I'm going to say that on there, and that's like a little weird to say another man loves another man, but I do, Josh. Okay, can I just say that very sincerely? I love you.
Thank you.
That felt
Thank
very
you.
sincere. Anyway, Josh.
I love you too.
All right, Josh, you tell.
do.
I know you do. Josh, why don't you tell him? You've now had the privilege of being at Seacoast Church. You were there at the very start of the church, obviously, because your dad started it, right? This story, give me the little elevator version of the story, bringing me to today, relative to what what God has done. Your dad started this church as a multi-site church. You've been in the shadow of it forever, and God has now brought you into a more senior role, taking over, in taking this thing to the next gen. Why don't you give them a little bit of that from your own words?
Absolutely, yeah. So Dad planted the church, and for about the first 15 years of the church, I was what you call dead weight. I think they had to figure out what to do with child care and all that fun stuff.
There you go.
But actually, my life was radically changed by the church. At 18 years old, I had moved out of my house, but got saved in a small group at Seacoast, and came on staff back in 2001 and served in the student ministry. Actually, was able to be a part of the team that planted our very first campus in this whole multi-site experiment.
Awesome.
That we've done. And so
I didn't know that.
Campus pastor there, and have sort of just been in a lot of different roles, and started teaching on the weekends back in about 2005, 2006, and then I guess it's been about 2 years that we've been in this transition process, and so we changed my dad's role to founding pastor instead of senior pastor, because he got here first, and so he can always have that, and he still is involved on our teaching team, but at that point, about 2 years ago, he transitioned the day-to-day ministry to myself and our leadership team, and so my role as a lead pastor, serving as a lead pastor for the last couple of years, so it's been a cool
Got a battery, Joel. My battery's going dead on the phone, Josh. Did you see that? It says right there, low battery. Is that not classic? All right, well, let me jump back in. So you're talking about how you did a very, kind of a General MacArthur-like role and knocked your dad off the pulpit one day and took over Seacoast Church, one of the most famous multi-site churches in the country, and somehow God continues to bless it, huh? Is that what you did?
Yeah, we use kind of the story of Absalom as our biblical framework for succession.
Josh, one of the things I've said to you privately before, I guess I could say publicly, or I'm going to say it anyway, is you and I will get on a conversation and we will say absolutely nothing for about 10, sometimes 20 minutes, and then we'll start talking about ministry. And I love this about you. It's like the nothing part, just laughing and having fun. Doing ministry together.
Some of our text exchanges hopefully will stay private, but there's been some fun ones, that's for sure.
They will. Anyway, moving right along. Josh, so you have had an amazing run, at Seacoast. Now, you and I talked a long time ago about small group stuff when I think I was even at Willow and then out at Saddleback. We had stayed in touch with what we were doing and introducing video-based, curriculum that aligned with the weekend, like we did with the Purpose-Driven Life series and the 40-day campaign, and said, hey, wonder if we could try something like this. So when we bumped into each other, you called me and said, hey, why don't you come on out? Tell about that and why on earth you would want to bring some crazy Californian out to the beautiful Carolinas and mess up the culture like that.
Yeah, so we brought you out for a couple different reasons. Obviously, the video curriculum stuff we wanted to look into, but just knowing your background and the way that you've served in small group ministry, what you brought to the table, in my mind, was not just the ability to help us produce curriculum, but even just taking a look at our small group structure and system, having a good background and experience in that. And I'll never forget, we were in a meeting, and I think you asked us, so what percentage of people are currently plugged into groups. And I don't know why I didn't expect that question, because it was pretty embarrassing at that point, because I want to say we had about 30 to 35% of our church connected, and
Yeah.
we would say we are a church of small groups, and it's a big priority for us, but we just had kind of been in a bit of a
slump.
slippage
Yeah.
season there, if you will. And so we began to kind of collaborate about what would it look like, not just to create curriculum, but to build some structures and systems into place. And we launched into a relationship with you guys. I think we did 3 projects all together, kind of with the coaching model of you do while we watch, and then we kind of did it together, and then we did one, and y'all just kind of watched and served more as a coach consultant, and it was awesome. I mean, we had some pretty cool results. I think we created some pretty amazing products, but the big picture is we went from 30% to right at about 100% of our people connected into small groups, just through some focused attention and some alignment. And we're a 13 campus church, and so we were doing this not just on one location, on 13 locations. And so we continue to do it. We took what we learned from you guys, and I'm sure we'll continue to work with this relationship as well, but we continue to do alignment series. We're in the middle of one right now that we actually just finished about a week and a half ago, but it's become a part of our rhythm on our calendar. And we've seen our small group participation continue to remain really, really strong as a core part of our church. So it's been fun. We had a good time. We had some beautiful locations, and that first shoot that we did was called Make Room, and we just had an incredible time with it.
That was fun for me because when we're going to show, Josh, as we talk through these series, some of the beautiful full color curriculum that we did, and show some of the previews of the trailers of some of the series. And we'll start with Make Room for God, and just kind of talk through kind of where we went with that. What was fun for me is coming out and sitting down with you guys on the first trip. And if I recall, now I'm remembering how embarrassed I was and how awkward this was, but they lost my bag coming out. So I was wearing a pair of sweats, right? And a muscle t-shirt showing off my Arnold Schwarzenegger body. It was, I just don't normally show that with anybody, Josh, but it was something that I wanted to share.
Listen, this was my recommendation. You were my friend. I was showing you off to our leadership team, and in you walk with your sweatpants, your pajamas. That was hilarious.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
They were plaid though, so it was cool at the time. Anyway, but what was fun for me is when we sat down, not only with your team, but with your video team. Do you remember that? Okay, and
they were bought in.
Yeah. And so most guys, they've got great competency to do this thing. They're just not familiar with what we do and how we do it, or they don't have the capacity necessarily because of the way they do it. And so that was fun because that created an opportunity for us to say, all right, well, we could come in for a season, kind of build a bridge and help do that train the trainer thing. But in churches like yours, the quality of the weekend, you want to match it with the quality of what you're doing midweek. And so it was a lot of fun to be able to do some stuff. Now, you introduced us to on that trip, your entire base of all the multi-site campus pastors. That was a blast for me to be able to be with all of them, hear their stories, because you guys had the largest number, I believe, of multi-sites, at the time, and what God had done with having one that was way out in the country, that was about 50 or so with a volunteer guy or new pastor guy on his way, to one that was down the street that you guys drove me around on a weekend tour that had about 2,500 in it. It still was unbelievable because 90% of yours are video driven, right, Josh?
Yeah, totally video driven. And let me talk about the video team too, because that was a huge part of it. Is that what happened? Not only did we connect our people into groups, but we elevated the vision of our team for what we could do. And I think as a lot of creatives tend to be, there was a little bit of skepticism about do we have the margin to do this? Can we really pull off something as high quality as what we're talking about? But having had our team come and basically shadow you guys for the Make Room series that we did, and we had a beautiful location out at a beach house, and just ended up with a really cool product. But these guys went from being fairly skeptical and cynical about this whole process to really this becoming one of their favorite things that they do every year. And so it took our video team, honestly, to another level. Not only from the shots and the production value and the lighting and all the detail that you guys put into that was just a good training opportunity, but then also with your vision and your input, I think they realized, I think that shot that's behind you right now with my dad talking,
Hey, there's a good-looking guy. There's a good-looking guy. See that guy right there?
That is a good-looking guy.
He's
yeah,
a really...
He needs a beard, but that's a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
But you would, so my dad would finish a shot, and where in the past we would all go, hey, that was great, good job. Brett would step in and go, yeah, that was okay, but I think you can do better. And you would coach us up, and you would take our teaching up another level. And so honestly, our whole process has benefited from the time that we spent with you guys.
What was
on these projects.
What was fun with this is we had done like hundreds of what we call kind of the single camera talking head kind of series. But with this one, what was fun is that we added testimonies and stories. We started this with Hope Rising with Gene Apple out at his place and doing, an interview and everybody. But we had time to kind of set up those testimonies at your place. By the way, this house was unbelievable. Didn't it cost like, $20,000 a week and, some ridiculous amount to rent?
That was my summer home.
Yeah, that's your summer home. Yeah, we get to go to some of the most incredible places these days. We're setting up in all kinds of fun places. Nobody wants to stay on the campus anymore. But we on this project interviewed what was all your staff and from all the campuses. So again, we got all the campus pastors engaged. We also had daily video devotions that were sent out during the course of the campaign. Actually, I think we did that for the second series, but we did leader training from all the different campus pastors, and the series was hosted by some of the other teaching pastors. So Greg and you have a real open palette. It's not just a single person doing this. It was a broad group of people, but we set up 3 different sites on the campus to do the testimonies. This was actually the testimony room. These guys just had this baby. It was just quite a story. I remember it. Anyway, so much fun to do this. Then the other thing that we did, any comment you have on that? And we're going to show the print here in just a sec.
Yeah, well, I think the cool part of that too is we all know that we have these stories on our staff and the people that have joined the team, but putting them all together on one project, not all of them, but we did a bunch of testimonies. I think just communicating to the church that, hey, these guys aren't just your pastors, or these guys aren't just these people that you see leading worship, but man, they've had stories and struggles with infertility, and they've had stories and struggles with marriage issues and issues with their children and all the challenges, the car accidents and these things. And so it really brought the series down to a real personal level for everybody on the church. And I think that's part of our DNA as a church is we, there aren't really any celebrities or superstars. We all kind of try to live as transparently as we can with our church, but I think that just brought a sense of connection between the congregation and our team by telling some stories that people hadn't heard before. So.
What was fun about this is we also did not just a black and white curriculum, we did a full color curriculum, what we call a congregation style curriculum that had literally hundreds of photos, and then the average photo had like 3 different faces in it. And so there's over 300 faces in this thing, and this allowed in a congregation like yours to have all kinds of cool photographs of the life, work, and ministry of the church. It ends up kind of being an infomercial for the church when people are coming in the side door into groups. This isn't just connecting a congregation, it's helping you put a tool together that allows people in the community to be able to reach their community, as a result of kind of doing a small group initiative like this. So, but this was so much fun.
It almost felt like a yearbook, because people would grab the book and they'd be thumbing through the pages, looking at
signing their name,
that guy, or here's our family, or so it was kind of a really cool idea. And I think you got most of the pictures off of my dad's Facebook page, which there's a benefit too.
Yeah, this was so much fun just because it just engaged people both individually and then as a group. Well, that was kind of the first series, and the results were really fun with that one. We were able to, there was the total number, I think it was like 7,000 or 8,000 people that kind of went through this first series with you. Wasn't it something like that?
Yeah, we did. We had about 8,000 adults come through, and it was super successful. The church loved it. We loved it, and we saw leaders developed. One of the things that I'll give kind of an inside peek to how this process worked for us anyways, is Brett came out for the first weekend, or the weekend I think before we were going to launch the series. And we had planned and prepared and had this, kind of pathway to get people connected. And on the first Saturday night service, it just didn't go as well as we thought it was going to. We didn't get as many people signed up as we thought we were going to. And I remember we ate out at a restaurant on the island, and Brett, in the way that he does with his coaching, just said, hey guys, great try, swing and a miss, let's revamp our plan. And so we did. I mean, we totally revamped our plan, and not entirely, but because the team helped parts of it, but it was just kind of your critical point of getting people to cross that line and sign up for the group or sign up to lead a group. And Brett coached us up on that one. And the next morning, I think we had more people sign up than we had people in the service. I mean, it was just an crazy result. But I love, and what I appreciate about what you guys bring to the table, again, is your willingness to coach, to say the hard things, to really help us accomplish the goals that we had agreed on together that we were wanting to accomplish. And so you remember that dinner? That was fun.
But I was very gentle. I was very kind. I wasn't critical. I said we blew it. We swung and missed. Yeah.
We didn't launch it as well as we had hoped to in our first service.
Yeah.
And I say that only because, man, the whole project was a huge win.
Yeah.
We ended up surpassing all of the goals that we had, but there's just a value in having somebody who's been around the block, who's done this before, who's seen some different churches and been in these scenarios many, many times. And so you were able to go, hey, another church tried it this way. Why don't we think about that? It was super helpful.
Well, it was fun. It was a blast because, Josh, you guys from the very beginning are so teachable. God wouldn't have done all that He's done in and through your life work and ministry had you not been that kind of responsive and that willing to try new things, etc. This last month we launched at Bayside Church, and they had 370 groups, and we launched 2,100 groups, and they put almost 20,000 people in groups, almost 4 times what they had. It was unbelievable launch, and we're just discovering new ways to do that recruiting of leaders. We kind of shifted it back to mobilizing disciples that need to be making a disciple and how to get them to do that off of the weekend to getting an exponential number. It's north of 20% of the average adult attendance that we're now kind of taking into that step. And it always comes back down, but it's been an amazing run. And to see what God is doing with churches like that. And with those guys, we're doing like a 4-volume series. Now we are doing either a Train the Trainer program or a Shadow program where we'll do a starter series like we did with you, then a sustainer series because you don't want to lose that which you just launched, and then we'll do a strengthening series, a deeper one, and then we'll do kind of a seeker series. So what was fun with you guys in the series is that we did the one, we kept coaching you over the course of the year's relationship, but then you guys went in and did your own kind of series with your team called the DNA of Joy. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, well, we had done a message series the year prior to starting to work with you guys called the DNA of Joy, and it was one of the best series that we've done on the weekend, one of the most well-received. We studied basically the book of Philippians. I think we did about 10 weeks, and so what we realized is what we wanted to do is create some content, some small group alignment type studies that we could use as a church together for a season, but then also have them available for small groups to use in the future. So they were timeless. They were able to live in our bookstore. They're still in our bookstore. We still have groups that'll go, hey, we want to go through that DNA of Joy series that you've talked about doing in the past. And so we took that series, and again, with a lot of coaching from you guys, and we turned a great weekend message series, and we just turned it into a small group series for ourselves. And,
that's great.
And launched it, and that for us was what you would describe as that sustainer series.
Right.
So we came off of Make Room, and we were like, hey, we want to have something, especially because the nature of some of these small groups is that you've got people who've never led before. They've never opened up their home. We said, hey, I'll try that. I'll give it a shot. They loved it. They had a great time, but they didn't know what to do next. They didn't know, all right, are we just done? Do we disband? And that's the inherent challenge that all churches deal with on the tail end of these is how do we sustain this? How do we keep this momentum moving forward? And so just by having a piece that was created by us in-house, but it was something that they could take on as a next step as a group while they were still building relationships and the group is still forming and connecting. And so it was fantastic. We did that one downtown, I think, at a hotel downtown, and I think you guys coached us on it, but y'all didn't come down and shoot it, but we learned everything that we learned through that first one and implemented it in-house, which was super cool and super successful as well.
Curious, a couple of questions that folks are asking on Facebook Live as we're rolling this, Josh. You said, what was your small group ministry kind of before, in the past? Because when I think I got there, you guys were running kind of the missional small group model and had your men's guy and some of the other people there that were kind of developing that. That was one thing. But, you guys also had a robust small group system, in the past way before that. And, small group stuff kind of goes like this. If you don't figure out how to interrupt, how to catalyze, how to keep it going, it's going to go up and down like a yo-yo. Why don't you talk about that over the years of Seacoast?
Yeah, so you're right, Brett. We did 40 days of purpose. We did 40 days of community way back in early 2000s, 2001, 2003 time frame, and had seasons where we really had a high level of growth. But then we went multi-site in 2002, and we began to replicate campuses, and our focus was on that, on building campuses and on building small groups.
Right.
But over time, by the time we connected with you back in probably 2012, 2013. We were just kind of on cruise control with small groups. I mean, we had people working with our men's pastor, women's pastor, working small groups, building leaders. It wasn't that we weren't doing anything, but we had grown as a church so exponentially through multi-site, and our small group percentage, and as a result of that, was on the decline. We hadn't figured out yet how to keep up with the level of growth that the church was experiencing, to develop the leaders and to plug people into groups at the same rate. We had just kind of fallen behind, and 40 days quit making their curriculum, so we didn't have anything else to do. We'd done the purpose and we'd done community, so we're like, well, I guess.
And those were two really good ones. I remember having a chance, to do those
as well. But you said it, Brett. That it's not, honestly, the material is important in the sense that it's solid and biblical, and that it's not full of heresy. But the bigger picture issue is that shot in the arm every year of going, hey, we're going to come together as a church, we're going to align together as a church, and the people that aren't doing it feel like they're missing out on a huge thing that the church is doing.
That's right.
It's just to say we're a family, we're doing this together, and that's what created the momentum. And so since then, we've been able to sustain. We aren't at 100%, but our target every year right now is about 80%. And of course, as the church grows, you're continuing to have to build that, but we wouldn't be able to do that if it weren't for these alignment focuses. And again, you talk about percentages. Who really cares what a percentage is? For us, it's always about that person who's showing up to church, who's taking these steps towards God, but they feel like they're alone, they feel like they're not connected, and we just want to always create pathways for these people to get connected into the community, because we all know this. I mean, you guys are pastors out there. If people attend your church for longer than about 3 to 6 months without connecting into a small group or connecting into a place of meaningful service, they're going to disappear. They're going to eventually they're going to quit going, because this Christian life that we live is a team sport, and it's one that we need each other for. And so we talk about percentages, and those are all important. But for me, it's because we care about the people. We want to help them connect, and this has been a huge tool
to do it. Yeah, and it is. For whatever reason, we've now worked with 50 of the largest churches in the country. A lot of the larger, more faster growing churches tend to be ones that really want to have that kind of a splash, that impact that kind of, catapults them and kind of stretches the rubber band when we kind of come in, and it never goes back quite the same way like you're even describing. But we're now actually looking at not just weekend average adult attendance, because they know now that people don't attend church but once every 1.4 times a month, and so you got to figure out how to get them quicker, and you got to figure out how to get them to get that secondary experience. Rick was saying this recently, saying you've got to have a second touch. That's why having more people, to be able to reach them with a second touch that aligns with the weekend is a really effective thing. And so we always now start with Easter adult attendance, because that's your sheepfold. That's the group that if you tap them on the shoulder in a ballpark or a cul-de-sac or in an office or a place where they're working out or whatever, they're saying they go to Seacoast. And so it's that audience. That audience is usually ridiculously high, and you never really catch those numbers, but to shoot for them. Does that make sense?
It does. You just made me feel a little bit more depressed about where we are.
You should.
If we go with that,
you should.
Because we still got room to grow. Hey, are you guys available to do a series with us next year?
Yeah, that's right. Who, us? No.
Yeah, I mean, now that we've fallen back since we put Easter at the threshold, we can't get in here and help us impact.
That's funny. That's funny. I was with your dad the other day. I told him out at the ARC conference, and he said, "Hey, we going to do anything together?" I said, "No, forget it. I'm not. We're not there anymore." Well, I want to go to the second series that we did. So we did major bookends with you guys. The first one that we did was Make Room for God, which was so much fun. The second series that we did was I See a Church, and I See a Church had so many different things, which is one of the most common thing that we get asked to do nowadays is what we call a mission, vision, and value series. This came out of our relationship with you, where you guys wanted to do your own version of of whatever is the core values of your church, and you gave them kind of a fresh spin. You taught along the weekend, and then we produced a series that kind of aligned with that. Again, that had testimonies and stories. Again, that had teaching from not just Greg, but yourself and some of the other guys on the team that really added a lot. We also then got training from the rest of your campus pastors. We brought the campus pastors in, and they did a lot of the leader training. We also did daily video devotions that kind of got more people in, especially your wife, Lisa. She did one of the best jobs with the teaching and the training, way better than you ever could have, Josh. I just want to go on record in saying that about.
True. Very true. Yeah, no, so this was like
talk about it.
critical moment for our church, because we were recasting and reframing the vision of our church. And so we wanted to do that in a way that it wasn't just us talking about these value statements on the weekend, but we wanted our small groups all to be sharing the same language and talking around it. And so it was beautiful. We went down to the Citadel campus down in downtown Charleston, and they had a
unbelievable,
beautiful chapel that we shot these videos in. And of course, your team did a great job with setting it up and getting the lighting and stuff all down. But we were able to reframe and recast the vision of our church really through our small groups. Then we, of course, did the weekend series with it, but our small groups are where we kind of really rolled out the vision and why we do what we do. And if I remember correctly, the weeks were things like, I see a church that cares as much about those who will be as those who already are. So we were able to talk about that evangelism mission, that sometimes you teach about these things on the weekend, and then you hope that your small groups are getting it, and you hope that your small groups are sharing that vision. But we were able to kind of equip the small group leaders to basically be vision casters as well. Think of a vision caster as the lead pastor of a church, or the senior communicator of a church. And in this case, what we did with this series was really cool, is we equipped all of our leaders in the church, even those that said, hey, I'll be willing to open up my home, I don't know much about this stuff, and they became vision casters for our church. They became carriers of the vision. And that was a cool project that beyond just connecting those percentages, which we did in small groups, you saw kind of the ownership level of our vision go up big time, because we had equipped them to cast it and have these conversations in their groups and in their homes.
So January is like one of the most popular times for people to do a mission, vision, and value series. We're doing a bunch of them right now. And it's, again, like I said, it was kind of with you. The other thing that happened as a result of this, Josh, is that we had talked about a different kind of a format on the print. Because we had done a lot of the smaller 6x9 with all the photographs, but we had talked about doing so. I was with you, at least. We were up at the piano at the Citadel. I still remember where we were standing. He said we wanted to do something that was more of a coffee table edition, something that was more of a statement, something that was like like a magazine that would be timeless, that would kind of live on, and with beautiful gloss and stuff, photography and stuff. And we came up with this new model. This is the 8.5 by 11 format that I absolutely love, that we do for churches all the time now. Your fault, Josh. Talk about it.
Thank you.
Keep going.
No, that was cool, and we'll still see these things show up in people's living rooms on the coffee table, because it feels like such a high quality magazine style. Yeah, I think about like some of there's some of these publications that we'll get like once a quarter from Restoration Hardware for some of these higher end companies, and it felt. What was that? I'm sorry. Was I not supposed to plug our sponsor?
I wanted to. Yeah, this is an example of like the most beautiful. It just shows the life-giving nature of your church. It shows what you guys want to do. Not just pretty pictures of church, which we showed all the campuses and stuff like that. But this just says what you want to say. And so when we show this to other churches that do this, they always show the photos like this, which is just a beautiful one of you and your brother, and then the gal running women's ministry too, baptizing this gal.
Oh yeah, that is Debbie. Cool. Yeah, that was fun. That was awesome. Like I said, we still have those things laying around people's homes because the quality was so good. You just don't want to throw something like that away. And so it was cool. You talked us into that too. We weren't sure about the higher resolution, 8.5 by 11 model, but what it did is,
why don't you hand me one of those
at Seacoast, because we had done these these curriculums several times over now. They were used to that normal, booklet sized copy, and so this just kind of gave it was almost like changing throwing them a change up a little bit. It caught them off guard, and it was a different content, different size, different style, and it was super cool.
Now, Joel, why don't you grab one? There's one right over here. We're going to show you. I got a couple copies, and then the Experiencing the Disappointing God too. The other thing. Thank you, bud. This is it right here, which is just this beautiful 8.5 by 11 kind of a statement that. And so those photos. This is my favorite photo. This is of your youth ministry, I think.
Oh yeah, that was at the Color Wars.
Yeah. Can't be. Yeah. So this looks like ministry. Anyway, that one and the baptism are two that I absolutely loved. Just showed a lot about your life, work, and ministry. And now what we're doing is this has just gone to another level. This one has got actually a creative graphic treatment on the front. We did this with a guy named Albert Tate, Disobedient God. And they always have daily video devotions, but they've now also got shots of what is the production. There's a baptism shot. See, so we showed you yours, and then they kind of picked up on that. But it's got that thud factor that's just beautiful. This was a really fun one that we just did with these guys. Now, talk a little bit about the impact. So it not only got people connected, but what did it do relative to the weekend attendance, the buzz, the momentum, and even how it affected, discipleship factors or giving factors, in a church. Can you talk a little bit about that, Josh? And by the way, we're going to take a few questions, so keep your questions coming. We're going to have a few questions here for Josh in a minute. Go ahead, Josh.
That's great, and we've kind of touched on some of this already, Brett. But in every aspect, doing these alignment series was a win for us. The attendance, you mentioned the 1.4. Times per month or whatever that national average is. We found during these alignment series, our attendance stays up the whole time because people are kind of looking forward to, and the small groups are pointing to, hey, next weekend at church, we're going to be doing this. And usually we'll finish our small group series with some sort of a serve component where we want to encourage our groups to all do a serve project together. And so sometimes we'll do that as a big deal that we do across all of our campuses at the church, and sometimes we'll have that decentralized and have them kind of brainstorm their projects. But that's the other piece of it, is that it leverages our people to then to get involved in serving in the community, whether that's with the homeless or with a project around Thanksgiving. I know this one we did, I believe, I See a Church, we did that one in the fall, so it culminated at Thanksgiving. And so when we talked about the value of our church, that we want to be built on the gifts of, not on the gifts of few, but on the talents of many, and we encourage them all to get involved in serving. So we saw that go up big time. Giving, I think a big intangible is people were just proud to be
Facebook
part of the
Live
church.
questions.
They're proud to show their friends, hey, this is what our church is doing right now, because it was high quality, it was a lot of fun. The questions, of course, were engaging, and the conversations in small group were really awesome as well. And so I think of it as a season where we sort of cross a threshold as a church in terms of the caliber of materials that we were doing and the expectations that our small group leaders had for how we were going to equip them went up big time as a result of doing these series. And giving, Brett started tithing to Seacoast, so our giving has gone nuts.
Millions and millions.
Rick, you were going to talk to.
Yeah, I had to move over my giving, and so it's been a significant. They've had to lay off staff and everything. It's been terrible. So, yeah, I think what we found though is, and I found this back out at Willow, is the giving of someone who is connected in a group versus not connected is almost double of what it is of those that are. Yeah, and so it just has a huge impact, and one that just plays into decision-making processes. How about with the multi-sites? Can you talk a little bit about the impact of getting everybody on the same page? And because that's been for us, working with churches that are doing multi-site or going into multi-site, that's a huge new kind of deal with us as a result of what we've done with you and others.
Yeah, when you go multi-site and you're trying to do the same, have the same church on many different locations, obviously the danger is vision drift, mission drift. You've got, in our case, 13 locations, and so trying to make sure that when somebody walks into, because they get invited to a campus that's 4 hours away, are they going to have the same experience? Are they going to have the same, overall experience with the church? And in our case, at the time, again, when you came in, we would have probably said not so much. I mean, certainly there was enough that was the same, the look was the same, but a lot was different there. And so these alignment series, again, that last one we talked about, I See a Church, was about getting our vision and value statements together. But it was just, and we aren't one of those churches that everything we do is the same. If it was a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is, man, every song, every look, every word spoken in children's ministry is the same, and 1 is like, we have the same logo, but that's all. We're probably in the 5 to 7 range. We want there to be more alike than there is differently, but we also value campuses having their own identity based on the communities they're in, and every church makes that decision based on who they are and what they're doing. But these alignment studies are these moments in the yearly calendar that we're all on the same page. So when we think about what are some things we need to communicate that we need all campuses to know about, to be bought into, we want to try to do that through an alignment study, because they know that our small groups have expected it, that it's part of their rhythm. Is we know the church is going to ask us once a year to stop whatever we're doing and focus in together on what we're doing as a church. And so it's huge. I mean, it's alignment and vision is the most important thing you can have as a multi-site church, to make sure that you guys are all on the same page. And this is just a vehicle that allows us to get there. And that's what we found here at Seacoast. So we love it, man. We're grateful.
Hey, Bud, thanks so much for jumping in with us. I think what you guys that are out there, just know, we're going to continue this conversation online. The number of folks have asked us to kind of continue. We're getting a little close on time here with Josh, and so I want to kind of wrap us up here. But Josh, any last thing you'd say to other pastors, church leaders that are kind of in the middle of doing this kind of thing, and just say why we are the best thing since sliced bread, why I'm the most amazing person you've ever met in your life, and I've completely changed your life next to Jesus and your bride.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe between Jesus and my bride, because I'll leave that for out there. Hey, here's what I'll say. I've already mentioned one of them. The coaching that Brett brings to the table, I'm not just blowing smoke, because I'm not one to do that, but he really does. He's done this for a long time. He's a lot older than he looks, and he's got a lot of experience, having served as a small groups director at Willow, at Saddleback, and he really coached us up. I heard a story about Reggie Wayne, who was a great receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. My dad had the chance to go do a chaplain for him, and their coach told us that Reggie Wayne, every year, he would come into training camp and he would say, "Coach, I want you to coach me like a rookie." And so I love that, because it says, I want to grow. I want to get better. I know I'm a veteran. I know I'm an all-pro, all that stuff. And so for us, we brought Brett in, and we basically said, "Brett, coach us like a rookie. I mean, we want you to pretend like we don't know what we're doing. If you're thinking something, just say it." And he did it. He brought it to the table, and it really helped us to grow. The other thing I would say, and we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, sometimes when you look at the cost of doing one of these projects, of printing all these materials and bringing all this video stuff together, it can be a little scary, and obviously there are different scales. And I remember we looked at it and thought, man, what would be that's a big investment to make in our small group ministry. But I would just say, from a financial standpoint, like Brett said, when you get your church leveraged around the same vision, when you get the buy-in of not just, in our case, about 35% of our people, when that jumped up to 100% and then probably settled back in at about 80%, you're talking about a lot of people who are engaged, who are invested in the vision of your church.
That's nice, yeah.
And I can just tell you, it was an investment that we made that has returned multiple times over. And so I know that can be kind of a big sticking point for people to go, well, I'd love to do this alignment thing. I'd love to see us take that step forward. And it was a risk. We were honestly concerned about taking that kind of a step. But by doing that, the Bible says, where your treasure is, your heart will be also. We saw on our own end, on our staff internally, for us to go, man, we are invested in small groups. We're invested in this series. And it just kind of brought our hearts along with it. And we began to ask ourselves, well, you're in a small group, right? Which one are you leading? And it just kind of brought all of our attention back towards the idea of connecting our people into small groups. And so I just encourage you to count the costs, because it's an investment that's worth making. Is it going to cost you something to do it? Absolutely. But the results that you get on the other end in terms of the discipleship, the heart change of the people in your church, and then just the investment level and the buy-in of the people in your church to the vision of your church, it's well worth
That's
cost
awesome.
that goes into it.
Well, speaking of cost, I think I owe you for that. That was very generous. I didn't expect all that, but I'm thankful. I'm thankful for you and your friendship and the ministry that we've been able to share together. You talk about the story with Wayne. Last night I was listening to an interview after a very painful Seattle Seahawks game, even though they got out of it with a tie. An interview at halftime that they did with him is he said that you talk about the rookie, kind of teach as if we're a rookie. I feel very much like that, and I identify completely with what Russell said, even though that game went where it went. He said he wants to show up every day as if he is a rookie. And because with that mindset, you're always learning. You're always, you're full of life. You're scared as all get out, but you're motivated as on the other extreme. And so I went to bed last night thinking I want to live like a rookie. I wanted to walk in today thinking that way. And you've always been that crazy teachable. And I'm grateful for you, thankful for your friendship, as I said. Thanks for taking some time with us, buddy. I love you. You're amazing. Say hi to Lisa, and we will talk to you, okay?
Sounds great. Thanks, Brett. Love you too. Appreciate you having me.
Okay, man. We'll talk to you. Bye, Josh.